Hi, greetings to you all. Welcome to another episode of my short series, Minutes with a Nature Photographer. Last week I uploaded a video about the new features in DxO Pure RAW 6, and the moment I published it, those features appeared in the main program, DxO PHOTOLAB 9, version 9.6. So, what's new there? That would be really quick. Actually, no, let's do it differently. What's new, and what are my tips for using the program? You'll find out in the following video. In this video, I'll show you not only the new features in my main program, DxO PHOTOLAB 9.6, that would be too short, but also two interesting pieces of information. One is a kind of scandalous revelation where I, before myself, my own self, in short, I look like a fool in the mirror to myself, to my own self. Let's move on. And one very interesting thing that happened right when I was testing the new version 9.6 alongside version 9.5, which gave me quite a few wrinkles on my forehead. That's the one. I wasn't there last week. So, let's get to it. The main new feature is, of course, the arrival of a new denoising algorithm called DeepPRIME XD3. It's very easy to tell. Open any photo and it's just clean, practically regardless of what ISO we shot it at. And yet plenty of amazing detail is preserved. So currently in PHOTOLAB 9.6, we have denoise standard available, which is what loads without you applying those super denoisers. But you see a fairly well denoised photo. Then we have a faster algorithm, DeepPRIME 3, and now for everyone, not just Fuji camera users, we have DeepPRIME XD3. Just check out my video on DxO Pure RAW 6 to see all the new features it brings. I won't go into that now. I have the first usage tip here. If you want to see what the XD3 denoising looks like, there are two options. One option is that the photo loads, but the XD3 algorithm doesn't. The basic standard loads, and when zooming in, we don't see anything spectacular. If we click the magnifying glass, we can look at a detail of the photo, and here XD3 is already applied. So then we can move around and you can always see it rendering. And see how the photo would look in XD3? It's a very handy feature, especially for slower computers. It's now possible to use this larger preview. There's no need to use the tiny one. There's a little toggle here, click, and we have a larger preview of the photos. However, you don't have to just use the loop if you want to render the XD3 algorithm on the whole photo without switching anything, which is my case. So since version 9, and right from the start, it's been possible in the program settings under the Display tab. It's the second one after General, there's Display, and you check Enable DeepPRIME Rendering, which means to allow DeepPRIME rendering. Well, and if you activate it, then DeepPRIME is automatically applied to the entire photo. You don't have to use the loop at all anymore. Of course, it depends on how fast your computer is. It works quite well for me. My configuration is a Mac Mini M4. And, And if we go into the settings once more, make sure that in advanced, you have some fast rendering system set up, so-called AI acceleration. I have the Apple Neural Engine turned on here, and it works well. So, set up this acceleration. In Display, set Enable DeepPRIME Preview, and you can enjoy a beautiful, clean space with every photo. We can find another new feature in the Local Adjustments panel, that's the brush. We'll choose the automatic AI selection, move into the image, and select, say, the bee eater. We click and it's beautifully outlined. I really like this about DxO, that it selects objects really accurately. It's possible we'll see a transition that isn't perfectly smooth at the edge, and that's why we now have a diffusion slider that can soften that transition. I've been testing it, and it seems that if you want to soften this transition, it's basically worth it somewhere between 1 and 10. If you go further, the diffusion spreads a lot into the surroundings. which looks reasonable at first glance. But if I want to make an adjustment, like increasing the exposure, then when we look at the photo, we can't help but feel that the bee eater is glowing quite a bit. So it's not exactly ideal for this. So I'll go back, move it to maybe around 5, and there, it's already very subtle. Of course, that exposure increase is extreme. We'd only need a little less, and to pull up the shadows a bit, like this. And we can't tell where the adjustment starts or ends. That's very handy, but I have to say that the greater diffusion will probably be more useful in landscapes than in perfect animal selections. One interesting thing related to this is that if I create a submask here, meaning I make another selection, like this twig here, then even that twig itself needs, or it's necessary to perform the diffusion there. So it's not possible to create a selection that includes both the bird and the branch, and then apply diffusion to the main mask, blurring the whole selection, but for each mask, you have to do diffusion separately. That seems quite strange to me. I'd rather imagine setting that diffusion on the main mask, and then if I needed something specific, I'd fine-tune it on the submask. Having, say, 5 submasks, which we'll see in a moment, and having to tune each one separately isn't exactly an ideal solution. Plus, in my opinion, it would be worth it if there were a slider or an option for what's called refine. Meaning the AI selection doesn't just give you a feathering option, but offers various alternatives for what should or shouldn't be included in the selection. That would seem a bit more practical to me. It works perfectly in Capture One, for example. Nonetheless, thanks are due to DxO for this as well, because it's another tool that allows for refining those automatic masks. Since I mentioned submasks, that's a mask that creates individual objects within the main one, like a bird, a piece of a branch, and so on. Here's something where I caught myself off guard. Either it didn't work before, or I missed it, or it just didn't work for me for some reason. Basically, here's the deal. If you want to create more of those masks or submasks, there are several ways to do it. You click to add a main mask, select an object. We've done that already, so I'll hover over the bee eater here, click on it, and now the bird is selected. I want to add the upper branch too, but I can't just click directly because that creates a second mask for the branch, then a third, and I don't want that. I'd like to have it as one large selection, the bird and the branch. Okay, so I'll create a submask. That lets me click in one area, and now I have 2 masks. I'll create another submask and click again. It works this way, but it's a technical nightmare. You just can't create a group of selections like this. Is there a shortcut for this? Well, the tooltip says a new submask is created using the Shift-J shortcut. So I've got this 2-handed stretch across half the keyboard, using one hand for Shift-J to create submasks. I mean, fine, it works, but try holding Shift-J on a keyboard. It's just way too far apart. So for me, that's not great either. But what I found works, and I could really kick myself for this, is just a simple shift. Meaning I have the bird selected, I hold Shift, and I click the branch, and this little nub here. And everything is instantly created as a submask. If I wanted to remove it, I'd hold Option on Windows, that's probably Alt, and I don't have to toggle positive or negative selection anywhere. Basically, while holding Option, I just click those individual parts again, and the submasks are erased, or rather a negative submask is created relative to the original. So we don't have to keep moving back to this button, nor do we have to stretch and strain our tendons holding Shift-J. It's really simple, just Shift and click and Shift and click. Basically just hold Shift and click. Well, you never stop learning, don't you think? Alright, and I have another tip for working with photos in PHOTOLAB 9. If you want, 9.6, but it works in others too. If you want to set up a photo so it loads with specific colors and settings, you use what are called presets. I have several created here. I'm constantly experimenting with them, playing with the rendering and so on. My latest preset is PET 2026-01, and that's how I'll be numbering these new presets now. If I like that preset and want it applied to all photos whenever I open a RAW file, Then in the Settings menu, in that first General tab, I'll set what should be applied to RAW. That means I'll select my Petra 2026 right here. I was playing around with it like this. It worked perfectly, but when I opened the photo, it was strangely contrasty, almost over-contrasted. I looked at what the settings were, and I found out that I'd accidentally set fine contrast of 40. When I set it to 0, the photo softens up, and it's exactly how I want it. But when I apply it to another photo, well, of course, this 2026-01 preset already has that micro contrast set in it. What to do about it? It's actually great because you can edit it. Just right-click on my preset here in the preset editor on the left and select Edit Preset. The editable items will turn blue. I can additionally set here whether I want any of those panels to be active or inactive when the photo opens. And I can also set a specific parameter here. In our case, I'll reset fine contrast to 0 with a double click. If I'm happy with it, I just need to save it, which means I click Save here. Not much happens, but it's saved. I'll cancel that, and from now on, when I apply the 2021 preset, that fine contrast isn't an issue anymore, and the photo is set normally. That's really handy when you're fine-tuning any preset for your photos. One of the features I really like to use is the independent photo structure in what are called projects. I have projects here that contain all sorts of photos that I've structured in different ways. I can have photos from Thailand here, of course, then individual trips and so on. I have that set up directly on the disk, and that's how I navigate through the photos. But sometimes I need or want to view, say, all the lizards. DxO PHOTOLAB 9 can't look into subfolders yet, and if you create projects, you can pull out all the lizards you photographed into individual folders. You can categorize them. I have them as agamas, anoles, basilisks, and it's great that it goes through all the subfolders in the entire setup. So for example, if I select basilisks here, I can see 748 photos of basilisks. But if I click on lizards, which basilisks belong to, I see thousands more photos. In fact, it's 12,863 lizard photos I've filtered so far. And it's the same with spiders. I have Nephila spiders from all the places I've ever encountered them. I have quite a few of those too. And I have geckos here, for instance. I have a ton of those as well. But you can also work with it in a pretty interesting way, because when you edit a photo and export it, it won't, of course, enter the project or the template on its own. You have to put it there manually. The question is, though, where this specific gecko is actually located within the folder. There are two ways to view it. I right-click and we can select Reveal in Finder, which means show me the photo in Finder. And here I can see the path to it. It's Photos, Thailand 2025 family, and here's the gecko. If I didn't want the photo in Finder, but wanted to show it directly in PHOTOLAB, I right-click and there's Show in Folder, Reveal Image Folder. And here the same photo is displayed again in the context of the folders, so Thailand, family, and here we have the bear, the lapwing, and that gecko too. So that's a very handy feature that I like to use. And that's also how I prepared the photos I'm showing you today. I have one more tip for working with the photo library, which is your photo library. This program can't look into subfolders, so you see exactly the number of photos that are in that specific folder. If I select the main Pantanal folder, where I have all the photos from all the trips, I'd have to go into further subfolders to see the individual photos. In the main ones, there are only some exports. Usually there's some kind of collages. If I look into the Pantanal folder, the main folder where I have all the Pantanal trips, I have two photo collages saved here. One is of jaguars, and the other is a mix of images of what can be photographed in the Pantanal. I'll look into the Pantanal 25 item, and I have a third collage here. And now I'd like to copy it over to the others. It doesn't work by pressing Ctrl-C, or in our case Command-C, and Ctrl or Command-V. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Nor does it work by right-clicking and finding Copy File, Paste File here. That's not here either. But it's handled quite elegantly, and you can get used to it. If I wanted to keep the photo in both places, meaning I'd want it to stay in the Pantanal 25 folder and also be added here to the other two collages, I just need to hold the Option key. Let's take this one. I hold Option, keep holding it, and drag it to Pantanal. And what happens is the photo stays in the Pantanal 25 folder and is also added here to the other two. So now I have three. That's the copy and paste option. We'll delete the photo, and now I'll show you how to move it, meaning it won't stay in the Pantanal 25 folder. But it will be in the main one. Well, I'll do it simply. I won't click anything. I'll just hold it, move it to Pantanal. It disappears from the original folder and appears in the new one. So copy and paste isn't directly there, but move and copy is. So that's pretty good. The final stage and goal of every edit is, of course, export, so the photo can be printed or worked with further. In DxO PHOTOLAB, we can do this in several ways. We select a photo, one or more of course, and click Export while in the photo library. That's one of the options. If we have a photo open in Edits, we can click on the bottom bar. It opens up here, showing me. But behind me, there's also Export, and we can export. And if we didn't want to do it this way and wanted a keyboard shortcut, there's a pretty nice shortcut, Command K, which opens the export window again. Here's another new feature from DxO Pure RAW 6, and that's the option to export DNG format, which is a RAW format in a compressed version, high fidelity compression. To tell you the truth, I've tried it on many photos and found no difference between uncompressed and compressed, but there's a big difference in storage space. Check out my video that I made about Pure RAW 6, and you'll see several examples there. I won't record it again. But a quick tip, feel free to export to that compressed format. It's really well balanced. You won't find a difference no matter what you do with the photo. So that's a great choice. So that's an overview of the new features in PHOTOLAB 9.6 and also a few tips. There are three new features. We have the XD3 denoiser available. We have a slider for improving automatic selections, which is also great. We can export compressed DNG, and everything looks rosy. Well, it's not quite like that. If you test DxO PHOTOLAB 9.6 and 9.5 side by side, you might break a sweat, like I did, and you might get this wrinkle I gave myself last week. How'd that happen? Well, basically, I sometimes have both versions available at once, and sometimes even before the program itself launches, to test it. But in all previous versions, the XD2S or XD2 denoising algorithm was used, and it didn't really matter which program I opened the photos in. But now, with the creation of the XD3 algorithm, an unpleasant issue arose where photos processed with it and then reopened in the previous program, 9.5, showed problems. The problems were that they either couldn't load with the correct denoising, meaning that XD version and even the 9.5 version of the program kept freezing on me, so I had to force remove it. It was quite unpleasant, and I spent about 5 days working on it, which is also why the new features I'm showing you are only coming out today. Because only today did I manage to get it running, hand in hand with the DxO help desk, whom I'd like to thank very much for their work and willingness. I'll show you what it looked like. Well, a photo that I opened once in one version and once in the other version started showing some strange behavior. This became apparent when the photo was enlarged. As you know, I have it set so the photo's denoised immediately. As soon as I open it, I see the denoising right away. But here, no denoising occurs. When I look, the XD3 variant is applied, but this is definitely not an XD3 result. It's more like a standard result, so when I click over to standard, there's no change, and it's clear that XD3 didn't work. When I look at the DeepPRIME 3 version, the image is already much cleaner, and when I want to activate XD3, it just doesn't work. In short, the photo somehow gets stuck, and it's not possible to select the XD3 parameter here, which was really terrible. The help desk gave me some great advice, actually two things. First, don't test both versions, especially on the same photos and the same folders, because then the versions start to mix, and because a completely new denoising algorithm was created, this problem arose. If you ever test both versions, try to at least separate the photos and not work in the same database. A lesson for next time. But how do you fix it? You can't change the XD3 here. Well, the advice is very simple. When you have a photo like this, we can switch to standard here so you can see the noise. You click on File, Metadata, and Read from Image. That means reading the metadata from the image. A message like this will appear. You click on it, switch to XD3, it works now. And in a few seconds, the photo is clean and functioning normally. If this is happening to you in a folder with a lot of photos, and you've somehow gotten it stuck like this, you can just select all the photos and get rid of the problem for the whole folder at once. So that was a really close call. If you're dealing with something similar, I hope this helps. Good luck. That's all from me for now. I've introduced all the new features and a few tips on how to work with the program as well. We made it in time, so what else could I? Oh, we have an ankylosaurus, so that's great. You all kept writing to me to get one. And even if you hadn't written, which nobody actually did, I still got it. And what else do we have? Oh, the snakes laid 17 eggs. Well, I guess that's all I know. Alright, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to try out DxO PhotoLab 9.6, go ahead and download the trial. If you'd like to buy it, you can use a 15% discount, but wait, I probably didn't emphasize this enough last time. My 15% discount applies to all software from DxO, but only if you're a new user, meaning you use a new email for the purchase. It doesn't apply to upgrades. Anyway, you can use it if you want a new program, or don't use it. I'll leave that up to you. Take care and see you again soon. At least I hope, believe, think, and pretty much suspect so. See ya. Bye. I can enjoy PhotoLab DxO now. DxO. DxO PhotoLab. Well, I guess my French isn't that good.